A very good evening to you all, and thank you for joining us here in this edition of the English News here on Rwanda Television. Let's begin with a look at the key stories making headlines. The Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion, in collaboration with the United Nations representative in Rwanda, urges collective action to combat gender-based violence against women and girls. Maize farmers across the country are expressing concern over the ongoing damage posed by army worms to their crops and are urgently requesting assistance to secure a successful harvest. On the international scene, Israel continues its airstrike campaign on Lebanon in what Israel says are ongoing operations against Hezbollah. My name is Olive Nete, and it's always a pleasure to have you with us. Let's dive in today's edition. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Ambassador Olivier Nduhungirehe, is in the Republic of Angola, where he attended the 6th tripartite ministerial meeting under the Rwanda process for peace and security in the east of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Moving ahead with other matters, the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion, in collaboration with the United Nations representative in Rwanda, urges collective action to combat gender-based violence against women and girls, emphasizing that no single sector can address this challenge alone. Enora Gladys has more on this.
In the brainstorming session marking the beginning of the 16-day campaign to combat gender-based violence, it was revealed that 94% of children in rehabilitation centers have both parents. 71% come from families experiencing conflicts. Participants in the discussions highlighted that without intervention, a child raised in a family with violence is likely to perpetuate the same violence in future generations. On visit, requested that we don't have to call him to greet his parents. When we asked him why, he explained that he saw both of his parents coming and feared they might fight. When parents separate, the child continues to face violence and lives in constant fear, with no hope for the future. Therefore, I request the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion, along with all other government authorities, to create spaces where children can receive help. The Prosecutor General, Habyarimana Angelique, called for those who perpetrate violence against women and girls to be brought to justice. Regarding individuals who are victims of these crimes, there shall be follow-up by the justice system to ensure that cases are prosecuted and that if evidence exists, the crimes are proven. These institutions, although procedures are in place, should take action when individuals approach the public prosecutor's office and other relevant authorities. This is a viable way to ensure that a person is granted compensation for the crime they have suffered. The United Nations Women Representative in Rwanda, Janet Kem, who is among the people who launched the campaign, urged everyone to take action against this violence as it hampers the development of families, even though Rwanda is among the countries trying to reduce violence so far.
Talking about how Rwanda is doing on issues of violence against women and girls, we can say, well, the efforts are there and very, very appreciable efforts. Rwanda is doing well at that policy level. And at programming, we see a lot of programs by government, by partners on the ground. But most importantly, what we see in Rwanda are these homegrown solutions. We all know also that the gaps still exist. Gaps exist in the level of approaching violence against women. We heard of new violence that is coming up. We heard of these emerging forms of violence, be it the digital instigated violence, be it the new forms, as we heard today, where violence is getting to extremes and the number of women killed is increasing. Child abuse, teenage pregnancies, all of these are data we discuss here today. So these gaps are existing. So what do we do? How do we move forward from here? The first thing is the call that we had, which is also the call for the international theme to end violence today is unite to put an end to violence against women and girls.
Emotional violence is the most prevalent from abuse against women, accounting for 55%. Women also top the list of victims of violence with a rate of 96.6%. Enora Gladys, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Enora, for the details. Now to the judicial sector. The prosecution, in collaboration with the Ibuka organization, has petitioned the Gasabo High Court to overturn its decision to acquit Oswald Rurangwa, who is accused of genocide crimes. They argue that the court's ruling contradicts the prior judgment of the Gisozi Sector Gacaca Court, which had sentenced Rurangwa to 30 years in prison. We have details.
The Gasabo High Court on Monday considered the appeal filed by the prosecution and the umbrella organization of genocide survivors, Ibuka, seeking to overturn its earlier decision to acquit Oswald Rurangwa. The appellants also requested the court to reinstate the verdict of the Gisozi Gacaca Court, which had convicted Rurangwa of genocide crimes and sentenced him to 30 years in prison. Ibuka's legal commissioner, Janvier Bayingana, points out that some legal provisions were ignored.
What
Ibuka is requesting is for the court to re-examine whether their decision aligns with the law. The first issue is that the court decided the individual should be acquitted, which essentially means overturning the previous decision of the Gacaca courts. Removing the trial itself prevents us from seeking justice. Our request is for the Gacaca court's original decision to stand, acquitting someone who committed such an abominable crime and overturning conviction that was made in accordance with the law carries significant consequences. It has also been proven that he previously escaped the country.
Before the genocide against the Tutsi, Oswald Rurangwa served as the principal of Gisozi Primary School. During the genocide, he held the position of the president of the Interahamwe militia. Survivors from Gisozi and other parts of Kigali are calling for justice, urging the enforcement of the sentence previously issued by the Gacaca courts.
I'm speaking about Rurangwa as someone who knows him well, having been his student when he was the principal at Gisozi Primary School. I'm fully aware of his actions during the genocide, as I survived at Saint Famille. This means I know exactly what he did in the Gisozi sector, as well as what he did at Saint Famille and Saint Paul. He, along with the Interahamwe militia, was responsible for killing our people at both Saint Famille and Saint Paul.
In 2007, the Gisozi Gacaca court convicted Oswald Rurangwa of crimes including orchestrating the massacre of Tutsi at Saint Famille and Saint Paul in Kigali, as well as establishing roadblocks that led to the killing of the numerous Tutsi in various parts of the city. He was tried alongside Major General Loha Munyakazi, who received a life sentence, and Colonel Tarsis Renzaho, the former prefect of Kigali. In 2008, Oswald Rurangwa, who changed his name to Oswald Rukemuye, was located in Ohio, United States of America, where he was enrolled as a student at Wilberforce University. On October 7, 2021, he was extradited to Rwanda. The Gasabo High Court has scheduled his trial to resume on February 3, 2025.
Thank you, Enora, for the details. Now, moving ahead, child rights advocates in East African countries are calling on politicians to take decisive action to resolve conflicts that lead to war, as these conflicts significantly undermine the protection and respect of children's rights in the region. Take a look.
During a meeting in Kigali, representatives from child protection and government organizations emphasized that children bear the greatest burden of conflicts in countries such as Sudan, Somalia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. They urged immediate action to address the impact of this crisis.
First of all, governments should prioritize ensuring security within their countries. This should be a top priority. In the event of conflicts, they must place the safety of children first, as they are the ones most affected. We request that they bring peace for the sake of children, so that they can be free, remain stable, and grow well, as they are the future.
Damon Wamara, chairperson of the East African Child Rights Network, stated that ongoing conflicts in certain countries have severely impacted children's rights and called on politicians to take decisive actions.
By all means, the duty of the state to ensure that the children have a safe environment to thrive. And by doing this is ensuring that conflicts do not disrupt their education. Is by ensuring that the schools themselves are not used as conflict zones. They're not going to be used as military barracks. They're not going to be used as safe houses. That the schools are going to be left so that children it can be a safe place for where children can continue to go and have an education.
Participants in the discussions commended Rwanda for addressing obstacles to children's access to education, positioning it as a role model of other nations. The East African Child Rights Network comprises 10 member countries: Rwanda, Burundi, Sudan, Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Kenya, Madagascar, Mauritius, and South Sudan.
Tomorrow News, facilitating knowledge exchange on community-based approaches that foster peace and psychosocial well-being and to promote the integration of mental health and psychosocial support and peace-building methodologies were the key topic that were reiterated on in the Summit on Building Resilient Communities. Diogene Karangwa, the representative of ICBS, highlighted how this will foster collaboration and innovation for a more resilient Great Lakes region.
And the project is focusing on the scale-up of community-based social therapy, an approach that was really proved to be very successful in the region, but also not only in the region, but also in other countries like Ethiopia, like South Sudan, like Liberia. So, and currently there are even some other countries in Europe and Asia that are interested to implement the project after different researches that have been conducted. So I can't also fail to indicate that we also conducted a randomized control trial that really indicated that social therapy contribute to the communities in the region and specifically in Rwanda. This very current project, which started in 2023, it's now 1 year of implementation. So there are many groups that have been organized in Rwanda.
To agricultural matters, maize farmers across the country are expressing concern over the ongoing damage caused by armyworms to their crops and are urgently requesting assistance to secure a successful harvest. Armyworms have appeared in various maize fields, adding to the farmers' workload as they are forced to either remove the pests manually or apply pesticides. This infestation follows an earlier challenge of inadequate rainfall, which had already hindered the growth of maize crops. Dr. Florence Uwamahoro, the Deputy Director General for Agricultural Development at the Rwanda Agriculture and Animal Resources Board, highlights that special community initiatives are underway in regions affected by the armyworm infestation, alongside efforts to educate farmers on effective pest control. Additionally, RAB has introduced a technology system to be used across Rwanda, Kenya, and Ethiopia, aimed at providing a sustainable solution by offering valuable information on pests, climate change, and soil conditions. John Recker, a research scientist from Kenya, states that this technology will consolidate critical information to help tackle the challenge facing agriculture.
Land Soil Crop is a digital online hub where people who work with farmers, and these people could be agricultural extension experts, could be researchers, could be business people working in agriculture, can end up accessing information about the status of the soil, the status of crops, the status of land management in Kenya, and then now use that to be able to make recommendations on the appropriate practices around soil management, appropriate crop varieties and crop types to plant in a given agroecological zone or area, and with that now useful in making decisions on how to invest and end up getting higher yields from the crops on a given piece of land in a given geographical area in Kenya. And the same can be replicated in Rwanda by having a hub at the national level, which can be managed by the research institution, that is the Rwanda Agricultural and Animal Resources Board, RAB, to be able to have a similar platform where people can access information. All this is aimed at helping the farmers to be able to practice climate smart agriculture that helps them to deal with the current challenges of climate change going into the future, to have more food for the family and even more for income for the family. Land soil crop.
In the 2025 agriculture season, maize is one of the selected crops cultivated across the country, approximately 300,000 hectares. Now, moving ahead, residents of newly developing neighborhoods in Kigali are urging authorities to enhance infrastructure access and address challenges stemming from the rapid urbanization of these formerly rural areas. Let's take a look at the details.
Rwanda sector in Kigali is experiencing significant population
So,
growth,
I was
with
saying
6 new residential sites recently established. Similarly, Gahanga sector has seen the development of 12 new sites over the past 6 years. Residents emphasize their pivotal role in transforming these areas, which were once predominantly rural and agricultural, into thriving urban communities.
after these roads were traced, we truly saw the improvement of this area as a city.
The residents expressed satisfaction with the infrastructure initiatives introduced by the government but argue for further expansion. They also call on relevant authorities to address challenges beyond their control, including ensuring fair compensation for land they relinquished to facilitate the development of these sites.
This is my land. They didn't give me any money, but I'm happy that I freely gave this land so we could have infrastructure. They should also establish proper drainage systems for rainwater, as it requires significant funding. While we do address this issue, our efforts are not sufficient, since the roads are not yet fully paved. We also need asphalt roads.
Emma Claudine Hirenganya, the Director General of Communication and Education at the City of Kigali, affirms their commitment to collaborating with the residents to address these challenges.
Yes, there are various issues to address. For instance, some people's lands are diminished while others are expanded. So what comes next as a way to compensate someone? For us, what we want is for them to resolve these issues among themselves first. When a site is about to be traced, a committee is established and we select people of integrity from the community to ensure the betterment of the community. If they are unable to reach a solution to the existing problem, that is when they reach out to us as Kigali City. One of the things we assist residents with during site tracing is resolving conflicts that may arise. Additionally, we provide technical support.
The City of Kigali has announced plans to secure a budget aimed at prioritizing infrastructure development in areas currently undergoing settlement expansion. Additionally, the city is continuing collaborating with other institutions to ensure the proper implementation of the Kigali City Master Plan.
You're still watching RTV News. Now to matters making headlines globally. Israel continues its airstrike campaign on Lebanon in what Israel says are ongoing operations against Hezbollah. This is as Hezbollah launches more rocket attacks into Israel. VOA has the details.
Israeli airstrikes on Sunday crash into southern Beirut. Israel says the attacks are part of its ongoing campaign against Iran-backed terror group Hezbollah. Meanwhile, a residential building in Israel has its side blown out following an attack of more than 185 rockets throughout the country launched by Hezbollah in Lebanon. The militant group began its most recent campaign of launching attacks into Israel following the Hamas terror attacks against Israel on October 7, 2023. Hezbollah said it did so in solidarity with Hamas. Both Hamas and Hezbollah, designated terror groups by the United States, are part of Iran's so-called axis of resistance against Israel. Israeli strikes into Lebanon so far killed more than 40 Lebanese soldiers, collateral damage for which Israel's military expressed regret. But pressure continues climbing for a ceasefire deal between the nations, and the European Union pledged more than $200 million in support of Lebanese armed forces while seeking an end to the war.
We must pressure the Israeli government and maintain the pressure in Hezbollah to accept the U.S. proposal for a ceasefire. This was agreed. This proposal is pending with the final agreement with the Israeli government.
As cross-border fire continues, Lebanon's caretaker prime minister accused Israel of sending a direct and bloody message rejecting all efforts to reach a ceasefire. The weekend's ongoing hostilities come along with news of the disappearance-turned-killing of an Israeli rabbi in the United Arab Emirates. Social media video emerged of Rabbi Zvi Kogan just days before his disappearance. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called Kogan's death a criminal, anti-Semitic terrorist attack.
The state of Israel will act by all means and bring justice to the murderers and their senders. None of them will be clean. I greatly appreciate the cooperation with the United Arab Emirates in the investigation of the murderer. We will strengthen the ties between us in the face of the attempt of the axis of evil to harm peaceful relations.
The all-out war between Israel and Lebanon erupted in September. About 90 Israeli soldiers and nearly 50 civilians have died so far. And according to Lebanese officials, more than 3,500 people there died, with about 1.2 million people, nearly a quarter of its population, displaced. Arash Erbasadi, VOA News.
To other matters, Ivan Benevolensky, a former professional hockey player who relocated from Ukraine to the United States 13 years ago, spearheaded the initiative to bring the Ukrainian youth hockey team to Denver. VOA once more.
Alexander Panfilov is one of 11 members of a Ukrainian youth hockey team called Kryzhinka that came to Denver, Colorado to take a break from the war dragging on back at home and hit the ice with some American players.
I loved how warm they welcomed us, with hugs. In the US, preparing for the game, the ceremony itself is so much more beautiful. We also went golfing, we went on hikes, went to the Air Force base.
The idea to bring the Ukrainian youth hockey team to Denver belongs to Ivan Benilevsky, a former professional hockey player who moved to the United States from Ukraine 13 years ago and has been working as a coach in Colorado at the Arapahoe Warriors Youth Hockey Club. In 2024, he suggested organizing a competition between local Colorado teams and Ukrainian teams.
These games are very important for children, but that's not the main thing. What's really important is they get a little rest from the terrible and sadly everyday events in Ukraine. To give them a break, give them positive emotions in this difficult time.
It took the Ukrainian athletes a few days to get to Denver from Kyiv.
From Kyiv, we headed to Warsaw, and from there to Denver. It was tiring to fly for so long, but it was fun. I couldn't wait to arrive.
I'm 14. I've been playing hockey for 10 years now. First, I played with my dad, then joined a professional team.
According to the U.S. Census, about 20,000 Ukrainians call Colorado home, and many of them came to support the Kyiv youth team.
We wanted to support these young players from Ukraine, to show them our community's spirit.
Of course, we came to root for them. We try and stay united, be together, attend various events.
And for the American players, it was a chance to see how their skills matched up against opponents from overseas.
And it's really exciting to play this team. It's a super new experience, something that probably a once-in-a-lifetime experience. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think they're a really good team, you know. They got some big guys and can move the puck pretty well.
The Kryzhinka Hockey Club director and coach Ihor Arhipenko says trips like this help his players get better.
I'm sure kids will remember this trip for the rest of their lives. Organizers do so much. They are with us 24/7.
I can tell you these are talented young men, and each of them has a promising future and career in Ukraine. We here in the US really believe that.
The Ukrainian team went home winners. They won 4 out of 5 of the games they played. For Svetlana Pristinska in Denver, Colorado, NRI's VOA News.
The story brings us to the end of tonight's bulletin, but before we leave, a reminder of our top stories. The Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion, in collaboration with the United Nations representative in Rwanda, urges collaborative action to combat gender-based violence against women and girls. Maize farmers across the country are expressing concerns over the ongoing damage caused by armyworms to their crops and are urgently requesting assistance to secure a successful harvest. On the international scene, Israel continues its airstrike campaign on Lebanon in what Israel says are ongoing operations against Hezbollah. Thank you for tuning in to today's broadcast. On behalf of the news, technical and production team, we wish you a productive week ahead. Until next time, goodbye.